Welcome to the next devlog of Oneiro. This version is 076. I have a new whiteboard just to try out a new devlog type. I don't know if I'm going to be using this, but we're going to see. 076 focuses on one main aspect of the game. Generation. The generation has been completely overhauled. It's been reworked from the ground up, and you should see a lot of differences in the actual generation of the labyrinth itself. Now, the new update will allow the labyrinth to generate special patterns. It will allow the labyrinth to create like bridges to other parts of the labyrinth so that it's not necessarily just one giant cluster of rooms. Sometimes there's a bridge that leads to another place, sometimes there's just a well-structured area. The biggest reason why I chose generation as the main focus is because this is where the core gameplay loop will come into play. Now, if I had kept the old generation, that generation didn't really allow for much versatility. It would always create the same sort of labyrinth every single time. Granted, it was always random, yeah, but nothing would really feel that different about it. The new generation allows me as a developer to have more control over what it actually generates by assigning a few different variables, assigning the different enemies. The enemies are now going to spawn in a much more balanced way. The weaker ones will spawn towards the center, and the stronger ones will spawn out the edge, like out towards the edges of the labyrinth. So the new generation should definitely help the enemy balance. It should just help the overall difficulty curve, and I hope to keep improving it as the updates come along. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the Miniboss concept. Or rather, just the new Miniboss enemy. Now, the whole Miniboss concept came from a few people on my Discord suggesting it to me a few months back. Now, someone had recommended a new enemy, or a new Miniboss, just called the Shadow Beast. But more or less, the Miniboss concept kind of pairs in with the generation. The generation, once it's finished generating the labyrinth, it's going to generate a certain amount of engravings on the walls. And once you activate enough of those, then the Miniboss will come to life, and then he'll just try to attack you. Now, this Miniboss specifically brings in a good few new additions to the game. The Shadow Beast focuses on being really destructive really quick and not being around for the longest time. This Miniboss can inflict a new status effect called Cursed, which blinds and deals damage to you over time. He's also the first thing in the game to completely disrupt the labyrinth without actually destroying it. And by that I mean he can physically take pieces of the labyrinth downwards, just to completely screw with you. Now, in addition to this, he has a black hole move, or rather a move that's related to a black hole. Basically, he'll just throw his arms up, and then he'll throw like a concentrated darkness towards you. And if you're close to that, you end up having like a black hole effect towards it. Not only that, but once it actually collides with land, it creates a small field, which is just consistent damage. The Miniboss drops a special item, simply called the Shadow Essence, as of now. I might change it later on down the road, though the item focuses on increasing your attack in exchange for your defense by a drastic amount. So this is one of the few items in the game that actually has a drawback to it right now, but it powers up your attack by a massive amount. Now, the next thing I had added in this version was a DevConsole. The DevConsole is there for fun, and for reproducing bugs if you end up finding one, or if you suspect that there's one using a certain combination of items, you can do that. I will mention that if you use the DevConsole, your score for that run is rendered obsolete. There's no saving that score. It is recognized that you use the DevConsole, and it's like, hey, that's illegal. The DevConsole has a few nice commands, such as just giving the player any weapon or any item, and it also has a few little fun commands, I'll call them. Now, as of this part of the video, the Oneiro devlog is finished. Though I would like to throw in a small shout out. Now, there's a good friend of mine named Cloak Games. He has recently put out a game in early access on itch.io. This game is an action-adventure RPG, heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda, and I've been an alpha tester for it for just over a year. So obviously I might be a little biased, but the game is a lot of fun. It's really creative in the puzzles it has, and I enjoyed every minute of testing it, and I'm currently in a playthrough of the early access version, and I'm having an absolute blast. Now, I'm mentioning this because I would love to see the game grow. Even if it's not Oneiro, even if it's not my own game, even if all I am to it is an alpha tester, I would love to see it grow. I would love to see the community grow just a little more. So I'm going to leave a link to it down in the description below for you guys to check it out. Now, I think that's everything that I wanted to say for this devlog, so I guess there's nothing more to say other than thank you for watching this video. See ya.